Guys, welcome to Warhammer stuff. So today we didn't coordinate our armies, and wouldn't you believe it, we both picked Orks. So this is an Ork on Ork fight of 2,000 points in 10th edition. So let's go ahead and look at what we got ourselves into.
Yes, and like the video if you like the video, share if you want to share it, comment if you want to comment, and more to come. So for my Orks, I have 1,990 points of, well, what I thought was cool. So in 9th edition, the army was heavily specialized, small groups and stuff, so I'm just trying a bunch of everything with a good amount of hordes. So we have, for troops, or no, characters, we have a war boss, we have a knob with Wah banner, we have a pain boy, the run turret is a part of the group over there. Then we have, of course, a beast boss on Squigosaur. These things are absolute monsters. And I have Mozgrog Scrabbad, because I can have him and... Technically, I could have him and like 3 of these guys. That's actually kind of interesting. And now beasts can move through walls. I have a unit of warbikes because I wanted to test them out. I have a unit of killicans because I wanted to test them out. They all have flamers. Mech guns. These are the bubble chuckas. And I have 2 units of Burnaboys and 2 trucks color coded. They'll be going into there. And last things to note is. Mozgrog is my warlord, but this war boss has the enhancement that gives +2 inches to his movement and his squad. Yeah, and that is my army.
Alright, you guys, so I am playing Orks, and so I had a couple of interesting things when I was reading them through, but basically I wanted to take kind of a small range of units that can hit kind of different ideas, so like the flash gets with the shooting, but because characters are now unit buffs, I have 5 characters, 2 of them are unique, but also the boys are interesting in the fact that once you get to a squad of 20, they can actually have 2 characters in them as long as one of them is a boss, not a war boss. So that'll be interesting. I'm going to try and experiment with that. But I don't play Orc super often, so I took a range of units that can attack, that can hold the line, that can shoot kind of, because all their shooting is garbage, but and then some different units for objectives to kind of see what we can do. And so I guess we'll see what actually happens. But yeah, so kind of excited for the list. We'll see.
So for the mission, we have Dawn of War deployment, Chilling Rain, keep it simple, and priority targets, which basically means we score 5 victory points for each objective we control, up to 10, so we only need 2 objectives. At the end of the battle, we can get up to 15 points for what we control at the end, so at the very end we need to control 3. And that is the mission. So, for secondaries, on the left I've chosen, fixed. So I have Assassination, he has 5 characters. Engage on all fronts. Engage on all fronts has always screwed me over, but like I have an army where I could actually do it feasibly. So I'm like, all right.
That's what I think every single time.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, but I really think it this time. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, and my opponent chose tactical, but there was a bug, and so like ignore these, but he's going tactical, and that is the secondaries. So for deployment, essentially my idea was I had no plan, so I was just equally spacing my forces throughout the entire thing. Warbikes took the left, Killicans took the right. Mozgrog is on the left because by that time I saw him have some tough things over there-ish. And my beast boss is on the right flank. And that's pretty much it. I had no real plan. What about you?
Yeah, so more or less the same thing. I guess I had a small plan. Like I have a couple of Gretchens. So like obviously I placed them on each side to try and sit on an objective. But then I was like, okay, well one side kind of needs to hold a little bit. So that's where I put the Mega Knobs. And then I had some units I didn't really know what to do with, so I put them in the middle, and then I don't know how I got stuff on the right. So yeah, more or less I had no plan either, with like 1 or 2 exceptions. But I mean, it's Orcs, so in the end everything is just going to run forward and punch the other Orc. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out.
All right. So who should go first? I have a feeling. So this is an interesting battle. If I go first, I'm going to rush forward, take the objectives, and prep for a charge. If you go first, I charge first, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen if you go first. It's mirror match.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. So whoever gets the second turn is going to get first charges.
Yeah.
With maybe a few exceptions, but yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. I don't know what to expect out of this because it's just literally going to be a bunch of people trying to punch each other.
All right, let's see how it goes. 3, 2, and I got a 2, 4. You're first. All right. Orks turn 1. Who would have seen that coming?
All right, you guys. So for movement, basically everything just moved forward. I didn't run anything because as much as I want everything forward, I don't want to get charged. So he'll have to. I mean, he has some stuff that'll probably get a charge anyway, but he'll have to work for it to get there. So I'm hoping that'll save me from some charges, but who knows what's actually going to happen. And yeah, that was the idea. All right, you guys, so for shooting, it was relatively simple. I had the truck and the flash kits, and one of my characters shoot at his war bikers because they're basically the only thing they could see because terrain is actually blocks a lot of line of sight here. But between all of them, they were actually able to take the war bikers down to 4. They killed 4 guys and did 2 damage on another guy. Then my Death Dread actually wasn't able to shoot them. So what killed the 5th? Oh, it was the truck. That's right. Okay, so they were able to kill a full 5 between them and the truck. And then my Death Dread shot at his mech gun, and it was actually able to hit or do 1 wound on it. And so that was actually it for shooting. My bubble chuckas with only 3-inch movement weren't able to see anything, so they weren't able to shoot anything. So hopefully that'll change in the next round. But yeah, not terrible shooting phase. I mean, orcs aren't known for shooting, so yeah. All right, you guys, so it was a relatively simple turn. So I didn't really get to do much, but because I used the deck for the random ones, none of my secondaries are possible for me this turn and the entire battle round. So I actually discarded one to give me an additional command point because I'm not going to be able to do either of them. And so, yeah, but pretty simple turn. Obviously no points, but we'll see how we go in the following turns because I've never done the tactical objectives before, so that might be fun. Yeah.
So for the movement phase, I really should have declared a WA at the beginning of the battle round. Well, that was a mistake on my part. But anyway, so my Knob with WA banner, he has the ability to declare a WA. I thought it was at the beginning of my turn. It's apparently at the beginning of the battle round, so we're just going to allow it to go through because that was my plan from the beginning. I thought it was the turn stuff. So basically, the Knob with WA banner declares a personal WA for him and his unit. And so his unit, the blue squad, has a WA. And I spent 1 CP for Here We Go, which is done at the beginning of the movement phase. And the blue squad has +2 to advance and charge. Alright, and then I did Battle Shock for my boss Knob, and they passed it on a 7, so they're good. And so when it came to movement, my blue squad ran, since they have their own personal wall. Now, because the war boss has +2 to his movement, they have a natural movement of 8. They rolled a 4, +2 is 6, so they move 14 inches forward. After that, then the beast boss and Squigosaur moved up. All the models moved up. So because of how I know that I'm going to get like a big counter charge, I barely move forward so that I'm somewhat protected in some places. My red truck moved up exactly 12 inches just to be able to peek around the corner to shoot the red squad. The boss Knob moved up to, I don't know, maybe do something. And yeah, Gretchen don't need to move, the mech guns don't need to move, and that is it. So for the shooting phase, first up, my squad, my truck fired into his squad of red boys, so he can peek around the corner, and it's filled with Burna boys. So 8 Burnas did 30 shots, and I killed like 7 of his guys, or something like that. Then my bubble trucker on the bottom right, the mech gun, fired into them and killed a few more. Then after that, the other mech gun fired at his Death Dread, did nothing. And that was the shooting phase. The charge phase, my orc boys with choppas are going to charge his slugger and choppa. And that was it. So for the fight phase, essentially what's going to happen is I'm going to win this one. We had some camera issues, so you're just seeing the wound results. So basically I had 12 guys who could hit with his 48 attacks with the WA, which gives +1 attack. Sustained hits was ridiculous. I got 12 attacks on sustained hits, and I basically deleted almost his entire squad. And then his Knob swung, and finished off the rest. And so my Nob with Wall Banner and War Boss didn't get to do anything. And then I consolidated back onto the point, and that was the fight phase. And so for Secondaries, Assassination, there is no character in that squad engaged on all fronts. I'm getting there, and yeah, no points. But so far, I've claimed the middle.
Alright, you guys, so because I did a WA, everything ran except for my mech guns. So, oh, and I guess the truck, but that's not as important. But yeah, so everything just ran up the board, ready to punch stuff the most orc way.
And I overwatched his Gretchen with my truck, who had flamers on the inside, and would have wiped them out, but we forgot they had a 5-up invuln save, so they just barely are surviving, so yeah. And that was the movement phase.
Alright, you guys, so for the shooting phase, I charged, or no, I didn't charge, my mech guns started to shoot. So the first mech gun rolled the 2d6 blast on his bubble chucker, so I shot at the orc squad in the middle of the table. And they were able to take out one guy. And then the other bubble chucker got the dense bubble, so I shot him at the beast boss on Squigosaur, who's apparently toughness 10. But he saved whatever went through. And so that was my... Oh, no. And then my truck shot at his truck, and so all the guys inside... Or shot at his truck, and then it exploded, so all his guys came out. One guy rolled a 1, so he was not able to hit that guy. Or one guy died, sorry. And that was my shooting phase. Alright, you guys, so starting off, I started with my Storm Boys to try and charge in. Now, they failed horribly, so they did not get in even with their reroll charge. But then my Mega Nobs, they all got in. They actually rolled a 10 or an 11 or something ridiculous. So they got into the truck, so hopefully that will die. My Orc Boys with the 2 characters got into his Orc Boys with the 2 characters. Then my truck actually charged his remaining Warbiker. And then my Nob squad tried to charge his Burner Boys, but they failed horrendously, even with a command point reroll. And then my Death Dread charged Mazrog Scraggle's bed. I couldn't quite decide between him or the squad, but I figure might as well try for him since it seems like it has damage. We'll see if it can actually pull off that damage. So yeah, we will see. And that was the charge phase. Alright, you guys, so essentially what happened was... I started in the middle, I'm pretty sure, and so I used a command point for my War Boss to swing on his War Boss, but he rolled really badly, or he saved, I rolled really badly, or he saved him, I don't remember, but the only 1 wound went through on his War Boss, and then they killed like 9 guys from his squad after that, so it was pretty pitiful damage.
Well, it's also because I spent my last CP on Arda's Nails, so you had -1 to wound, and that actually was why my War Boss did not get beaten into the ground. Yeah.
And then I swung with my Mega Nobs, and the Kill Saws actually killed his truck, so the guys popped out, and I consolidated into those guys. And then, let's see, where do we go next? My truck actually killed his last guy with his Wrecking Ball, so he ended up doing 6 damage to him, and just smushed his last Warbiker, so that was pretty cool. And then Mazrog Scraggle's bed, I attacked him, and I did 5 damage? Or...
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
he has a Feel No Pain, so... 2 wounds went through, doing 6 damage, and then with his 4-up Feel No Pain, he failed all of them except for 1. So then he took 5 damage from that, and then he started swinging back.
Yeah, and so for my swings back, my blue squad in the middle basically swung back with the boys, killed almost everyone. Then the Nob finished off the rest of the squad. Then my War Boss swung on his War Boss, and I did not have the same problem as him. I had better rolls, and I ended up killing him on the exact amount of wounds that he had left. Then my Nob with Wall Banner squished the weird boy he had, and that was 2 assassinations. So, and then after that, my Burna Boy swung on his Mega Nobs, did 2 wounds. And then after that, Mosgrog Scragbag swung back on his Death Dread. I allowed my opponent to use a reroll because he didn't know how damaging my guy was. Basically, Mozgrog gets +1 damage on all his attacks, and my opponent apparently has a 2-up armor save for some reason, and so he saved 2 of the attacks from his extra attacks and everything, but one of the Champa's bites went through, and that did 5 mortal wounds, and brought him down to 3 wounds left. Yeah. I mean, it's a really high damage, but that was just 1 dice that went through, so. Alrighty then, and that was the fight phase.
Alright, you guys. Well, this was not a great, I would say, turn for blows in melee. I did do okay on points, so I had the one primary objective, so I got 5 points for that. And then bring it down, because it's a tactical objective, I destroyed 2 of his trucks. Each truck gave me 4 points each. So I was actually able to get 8 points total from bring it down. Capture enemy outpost, however, I have no chance of getting, but because I already gained a command point, there's no point in discarding it either. So anyway, so I got, 12 points so far this game? And it's 13 points. But yeah, so secondaries, 50-50. But not a terrible turn for points.
Alright, so for the first battle shock phase, Mozgrog Scragbad got injured a lot, so he had to take a battle shock test. He made it. My Gretchen rolled for 4-up to get me a CP. They failed again. Alright, then after that, my Burner Boys fell back from the Mega Knobs. My Mech Gun fell back a little bit, or moved back. My green squad of Orks moved up to deal with the Storm Boys. My Burner Boys stayed where they were. My red squad of Ork Boys moved up to deal with the Knobs. My blue squad of Ork Boys moved up from the objective, since I only need to control 2. So my Beast Boss moved up to deal with the Mega Knobs, but he also touched the objective, and he is 3 OC, and the run turret that's touching it is 1, so I took it. Oh, well, almost. I mean, he has those knobs there, but I think I'll probably equal it, or at least draw it. It'll be fine. And then my War Boss, my blue squad, since they do have +2 to movement because the War Boss is enhancement, and they ran, they moved up to right up to there. The Gretchen are right on the inside line of the building, so they're right there in front. And that was the movement phase. So for the shooting phase, first up, what did I do? Oh yeah, the mech gun on the left fired at the well, first you roll to see what kind of damage it's doing, and then you get to select the target. He rolled the weakest one, so he fired at the Gretchen, killed 1. Then my Ork Boys with Sluggas and Choppas fired their Sluggas at the Knobs, did 1 wound. Then the Burner Boys fired at them, did 3 wounds. So killed 1, finished off 1 and killed another. Then after that, my Killicans mag dumped his Mega Knobs, successfully killed 1 and did a wound. Then my green squad of Orks shot at the Storm Boys, killed 3 with their Sluggas. That was it. Alright, so for the charge phase, completely forgot what I did first, but basically, blue squad charged the Gretchen and the mech guns up top and got into combat with all of them with a 7-inch charge. Then green squad charged the Storm Boys, made it in, wrapped around them. Squigosaur charged the Mega Knobs, made it in. Killicants charged, made it in. Ork Boys charged the Knobs, made it in. And whatchamacallit, I'm going to change the color of one of my units. And then my Flamers charged his Death Dread to hopefully kill it, to protect Mozgrog, and that was it. Alright, so for the fight phase. So my opponent can interrupt, so I had to choose the best place to go. So I decided that the red Knob squad on the left had the best chance of doing something. Or red boy squad. So they swung, and 76 attacks. They completely killed the Knobs before the boss Knob and the Pain Boy got to swing. Then my opponent interrupted with his Mega Armor squad. His War Boss and Mega Armor swung on my Beast Boss and did 3 wounds to it. And then his Mega Knobs all swung on the Killicans. They killed 1 and did 4 wounds to another Killican. And that was it. And then my swings back. My green squad of Ork Boys swung and obliterated his Storm Boy squad And we're trying to figure out how characters take damage afterwards. Does the attacks bleed over or something like that? Or does the whole squad is wiped and then you have to attack new things? Because I think they bleed over, but we're not fully sure. And so my Boss Knob and Pain Boy brought Boss Zag Struck down to 1 wound left. Then my Beast Boss and Swigosaur killed a few. Then my Killicans killed the rest. Honestly, they should have gone next because they have 3 damage each and -2. So these guys actually output a lot of good damage. Goodness. After that, my blue squad of Orc Boys up top obliterated the Gretchen entirely. The War Boss killed a mech gun entirely. And then the 3 Orc Boys who swung on the last mech gun did 5 wounds to it, bringing it down to 1 wound, so it is still alive. But I did take his home objective. Then, whatchamacallit? Then my purple squad of Burna Boy swung on the Death Dread. Did 2 wounds to it. It's still alive. Then it was his swings back, and his Death Dread immediately killed Mosgrog Scribebag because despite having a 4-up Invuln and a 4-up Feel No Pain, he could not roll 4-ups to save his life. And he died. And then his Gretchen swung on my Orc Boys, killed 3, essentially. His truck swung on my guys. I forgot I had a Feel No Pain, so I rolled that. So it did kill 1, but it saved 1. Then, and then his Boss Zag Struck swung on my big squad of Green Orcs, and it killed 2. His mech gun up top swung against my blue squad of War Boys, and they survived entirely. And that was the long fight phase. So for secondaries, assassination. Actually, in my previous turn, I killed 2 of his characters, so I got 4 points for them. And then engage in all fronts, I have not gained it. I have not gotten it, so nothing there. And and I did get 10 for primary, and that is my second turn. Alright, we have decided to call it there because the majority of the Orcs have been defeated by the Orcs. And so the Orcs win. So victory. So MVP. I won. Alright, so MVP, LVP. LVP, it's a interesting tie. So the mech guns killed like 2 models, a Gretchen, and I think there was 2. I only remember a Gretchen. So these guys greatly underperformed than the regular Gretchen. Now, they were very strategically important. They held the back line so that something else didn't. But I'm putting them here is because every time I rolled for them to generate a CP for me, they failed. So, when push... They
did every time I rolled.
Yeah, I noticed that's why he had a boatload of CP. So, for me, how everything was going... honestly, mech guns are my LVP. I would have preferred to take anything else over them. I mean, they cost me 90 points for the 2 of them, so they're pretty cheap. But, like, I would have preferred to have something else over these guys that might actually do something. So, LVP. Then MVP. So, there's the War Boss for his Blue Boys squad. Because they got a first turn charge, which was still quite large. They took the center objective. They completely wiped out a block of 20 man. Then... they got charged by a block of 20 man again with a War Boss and Weird Boy, and then they completely killed that squad, despite pretty much being the exact same makeup. It's because the wall was going on, I had Art as nails on to help me survive. I really wanted to do the one where my guys fight on death, might have been better, but they successfully killed 2 giant bricks, killed a squad of Gretchen, they took the home objective, they took the middle objective, and they killed one of the mech guns, and they would have killed the other one in a moment. So, huge kill count, just slaughtering their way through the board. Then the Killicans, they killed 3 Mega Knobs. These guys actually do a lot of damage. Well, actually, no, they killed 4 Mega Knobs, because then they're shooting with their Scorches. These guys are pretty tough. 3-up and 6-up. They benefit from WA and all that stuff. So it's 3 for 150 points. It's actually pretty good. These guys are a pretty solid battle line for you. But in the end, MVP, I'm going to go with this squad because strategically and practically, they had the highest kill count. They took objectives. They took my opponent's objectives. They basically won me the game, just this. So what about you?
Well, I think my LVP was definitely the weird boy. I took him because he gives this teleport rule to his squad, where once per turn they can literally just like they literally just pick up and move somewhere else.
Yeah.
And not using it at all. I don't think it actually is a good idea for melee. Maybe I could have taken a squad of 20 like shooty boys, because he can only go into a squad of boys. So, yeah. But I guess maybe they're also to help buff his shooting gun. I don't know. Either way, though, definitely didn't use it, and he didn't end up doing anything for me. That actually whole squad just ended up not doing really anything for me. So massive failure there. So weird boy for sure. MVP though was definitely the flash gets with Captain Badrock in a truck. They just every turn did the most damage. They shot whole units off. Or most of a unit. They were able to consistently do lots and lots of damage, even though their ballistic skill is 5. His just reroll all hit rolls, and then the sustained hits on the flash gets guns was actually pretty big deal. Of course, I think a nearby second, not necessarily a close second, but a nearby second would have been the Death Dread, which is here somewhere.
Yeah, because he did kill my Mosgrog Scradbag.
Killed Scraggles. But yeah, but not a lot of MVPs, so it's kind of odd because they have so many characters. It's like, okay, well, this guy sounds interesting, this guy sounds interesting. So it's just kind of trying to figure out, okay, who's actually good. And I think characters are more and more actual, just like buff units, like not so much counting on their own skills. Now I know Badrock, he has a pretty nifty damage 3 supercharge gun, but of course the downside to that is potentially 3 mortal wounds for each one that he rolls on a separate roll thing. So technically super dangerous, not a great idea, but you know, whatever. But yeah, so MVP, definitely the flash gets with the character inside of a truck, for sure.
Yeah, like the mobile platform of death. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, because they have really long range too. It's not even like it's like your Burnas with the 12-inch range. Like there's 36 inches of death.
Yeah. All right then. All right. So our opinion of the Orks. Well, and after playing a bunch of 10th edition and nothing dying, it's very interesting to see so much dying in such a short period of time. Especially the Orks with the 19 boys on a full squad, 20 or 76 attacks. Especially with the war boss hitting on 2s. Like, all this stuff is ridiculous. And so overall, I feel like their horde potential could be back. They have a lot of interesting tricks and stuff, like the Burna Boys in the truck for Overwatch entirely, or for surprisingly your marching band of death truck with that. I feel like the Orc horde army is back, like straight up. It's really good. It's back. So I mean, as far as a lot more testing would have to go through, trying a lot more interesting combinations and unit types and stuff like that. But yeah, they're pretty interesting. I'm gonna keep playing them at a later date and stuff. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, well, so I like them. I think they have some units that are obviously stronger than others. I think the challenge is balancing the numbers of units, because their ballistic skill is garbage across the board.
Absolutely.
So they're not really a shooting army. Their Burna Boys, obviously you don't have to roll to hit, so that's whatever. Their flash gets with their character reroll all hit rolls, so that's something. But yeah, I like them. I think there's a lot of choices, and not all of them are super great. But because especially now, so many characters are limited to certain units. So it's like, okay, does this unit need a buff? If so, okay, it's this character specifically. And so yeah, but so I mean, I think it was interesting playing them. They're definitely on the charge. And if they get caught out in the open, because they have no saves, essentially, by a shooting army, the Orcs will take for real damage.
Yeah. And so, like a bunch of trucks loaded with your correct stuff really is
Yeah.
a big deal. Yeah, and they're cheap too.
Yeah.
Trucks are like 50 points. It's like nothing.
Yeah, they're not expensive, which is good. It'll add up the more trucks you get, obviously, but
Yeah, but like you could easily have 3 or 4 trucks in a game delivering massive payloads of stuff.
and not be super worried. Now they can only hold 11 units though,
12.
or 11 models. So okay, 12. So that would be the only thing. I guess really the only thing that goes that high though is the boys. Everything else, I think, actually has to stay under 10 models.
Well, you can have a squad of 10 and like a character in it. Mega armor takes the place of 2, so you can have 5 mega armored in a thing.
I don't know if they can. I think they have to be in a battle wagon. I don't think the truck.
No,
can
it's.
actually take them.
I'm looking at the data sheet. Each mega armor takes up the space of 2. You can't have jump pack.
Okay.
So you could have a small unit of 3 mega armors and a character in a.
Yeah.
So trucks. I'm beginning to notice that vehicles and transports in this game are becoming way more important. Good job on GW on making like every type of model count in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, they finally brought back the use of vehicles because those guys had died out pretty hard.
Yeah, mech guns still suck.
Yeah, I think they're kind of fun. They still have that like random orkiness.
Yeah, but like they're very cheap, 45 points for one, but you don't know what you're getting in the battlefield. And when you really need it to perform, it ain't. So yeah. So overall, as far as the game goes, it was straight up a battle of who charged who first. When I went second, I barely moved because I wanted to make sure that if he did advance and charge in the next turn, he could not. It'd be unlikely he would get some of those charges off. And whenever I put something forward, I was expecting it to be charged the next turn so I could countercharge perfectly the next time. So it was a movement battle in the first 2 turns. Actually, no, in the first turn entirely. The game was decided in the first turn, and the second turn was just the dice rolling. Any further turns would just be mopping up of what's on each side. That's what I think. What about you?
Yeah. I guess that's the hard part when you're playing 2 armies that are the same, but even just a similar idea. So like if one of us was playing World Eaters, for instance, it's kind of the same army. It's just who charges first and then who rolls better, essentially.
We're going to do that one day. We're going to just play like melee armies back to back and see who's more fun or more better. Black Templars, World Eaters, Orks, and stuff like that.
World Eaters would be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no, I mean, yeah, so there's a little bit of the dice rolls in it, but I think, I don't know, it's crazy that for as terrible as their shooting is, my best unit this game was a shooting unit.
Yeah. A high damage, high number of shots.
Meganobs, those were interesting. They don't have an invuln, but they have good armor, and they have kind of not great damage. Like, they have less attacks, sure, that's not as big a deal, but they only have 2 damage each. So that's kind of weird. If
you give them a war boss, their ability to hit gets better, but if you give them a big mech and mega armor, they become a super tar pit with you reviving them once per turn, but they also have a ranged invuln. So yeah. And so it's a bit sad, but yeah. So
yeah, I kind of thought they would just sit on an objective and hold it, but that didn't quite happen.
Well, you got hit by the killicans, which had 3 damage each. And it was like, yeah. If it was,
so I'm starting to see it might be more. 10th edition might be more of a mechanized game.
Yeah, I am beginning to notice that a bit, but the Orks horde still can work if you pair the right characters with units. You could easily have a very, very powerful horde army. Yeah. All right then. All right, GG's and GG's. So, like the video if you like the video, share it if you want to share it. Comment if we got anything wrong, and we will see you next week. Bye.